Hey WILDR folks, Alicia here. This week's video is about this awesome book that I have read and am implementing with my clients right now. It's called Next Level by Stacy T. I absolutely loved the book that she made on general strength recommendations for women, and she has come out with this book, which is all about your guide to kicking ass, feeling great, and crushing goals through menopause and beyond. I feel like this is A, not talked about enough, and B, applicable to half the population. So let's dig into the cliff notes. Now, a couple of things here. You want the full details, you're gonna have to buy the book. Second thing is I am giving you literally the cliff notes on how you can apply what she says in here to your gym training. So instead of going into big detail about hormones and that sort of thing, we are skipping right to the good stuff so you can implement this into your training ASAP. Now, she starts the book by talking a little bit about our cultural perception of menopause. It's something that people don't tend to talk about or shy away from talking about, which seems ridiculous because, as she states in the opening, average age that women live to is 81. Average age of going through menopause is 51. So we're going to be spending 40% of our lives post-menopausal, and beyond that, 5 to 7 years in the transition time. Beyond that, there are hundreds of millions of women who are perimenopausal or postmenopausal. And so to think that they're going to stop playing in the mountains or going for hikes or lifting and living their best lives is absolutely ridiculous. So I love that she's written a book that can empower you to continue working on your strength and fitness throughout your lifespan. Now, before we get to these strength training recommendations, which you know are my favorite part, we need to start by just defining what menopause is. This is something I learned from this book. The term menopause actually refers to this moment in time where you haven't had your period for 12 months in a row. Before that, you're perimenopausal if you're going through hormonal changes, and then you're premenopausal if you're before that. Now, for some women, they go 11 months without a period, they get a period, and so technically then that timer counts down again until you get that full 1 year without a period, and then you are postmenopausal. Now, the hormone levels that we are used to in premenopause, or until we're about 51, change during this premenopausal time all the way through to postmenopause. And she talks about how a lot of these hormonal changes are the cause of some underlying symptoms and how some of these symptoms can be managed or improved with the use of strength training, which is really, really cool. Now, you came here for the cliff notes, so I'm going to give you the cliff notes. These are the recommendations, the 5 recommendations that she gives in Next Level. So the first thing she recommends is sprint interval training, and that is working at a very high intensity for a very short period of time with a fair bit of rest incorporated. So this could be sprinting for 8 seconds and resting for 12 and repeating that quite a few times in a modality that you can go quite hard at. So in the gym here, we've been doing some resisted sprinting so that you can get that really hard output and then get that rest and recovery afterwards. This helps release some hormones that kind of act in place of estrogen in our body and can reduce some of the symptoms, particularly the weight gain and mood disturbances that can come along with menopause. Her second recommendation was to lift heavy shit, is how she actually put it, but to lift heavy. She recommended sets of 3 to 5 reps of an exercise and repeating that a few times with ample rest. And the effect that this has on your system is it helps you keep muscle and strength as you age. It also improves your bone density. It can lower your blood pressure, which is really cool. She recommends hitting a strength-based session where you're lifting heavy shit 2 to 3 times a week at least to see progress. The third thing she recommends, and I thought this was really cool, was incorporating plyometrics. So plyometrics are basically jumping-like activities where you're putting a fair bit of force through your body tissues. And so, for example, these could be jumps, they could be skater jumps, or doing like third knee highs, those sort of things, and incorporating that into your week in lots of different directions. So not just running, but also like stuff that moves you laterally and in different ways so that that strain on your body is different. Fourth thing she talked about was a prolonged warm up. So gone are the days where you can get up off the couch with a hangover and do a 5K as fast as possible. Instead, you need to incorporate some warm up, which is actually good for anyone to do because it's going to prime you to get the most out of your workout. She says a 10 to 15 minute warm up is going to be important instead of just doing a couple moves and then moving into your main lifts. I always recommend a very light set at the beginning of your workout as well. Down. And her final tip, number 5, was to prolong your cool down. The reason for this is cortisone circulating in the body, like it typically does after a hard workout, can have more of a negative effect on you if you are peri or post-menopausal. And so if we take our time to do some deep breathing, get some stretching in, some mobility work in, then we can bring down all those stress hormones before we go back into everyday life. And that is going to help us stay stress-free for the rest of the day. And if you put all these things together, it really turns into a well-rounded workout program for someone of any age, to be totally honest. But you can harness these tips that she has in the book, Next Level, to make sure that your workouts are serving you if you are approaching, going through, or post-menopausal. Check out the book. But this was the Cliff Notes. Incorporate these suggestions into your training and have a wilder week.